Guys, some things just don't change. We are here again to talk about Jeffrey Chadiha sipping on the haterade in an article from NFL.com. And it's just, again, that we have old Jeffrey himself talking some smack on the Kansas City Chiefs, or maybe not talking some smack, but at least probably not giving the Kansas City Chiefs the due respect that they deserve. But I do have to give some credit where it's due because he's not picking the Chargers to win the AFC West. In an article titled Way Too Early Bold Prediction for 2025 NFL Season, Bills win Super Bowl, Ashton Jeanty hits 2,000 yards. So just in the title, he's 0 for 2 from NFL.com by Jeffrey Chadiha. We get an intro that reads as such. The NFL is officially moving into vacation mode. During mandatory minicamps, we all had the chance to discuss how far these teams have come this offseason. Now we'll spend the next few weeks anticipating the start of training camps and the push towards the upcoming regular season. We are at T-minus 28 days before training camp, I believe. I did not do an official count, so don't fact check that. Before we reach that point, the first read wanted to throw out a little food for thought. It's usually best to make predictions once camp have gone on for a few weeks or the season is just a few days away. We're taking a different route this time around. Here are some way too early bold predictions to ponder for this upcoming year. Guess what number 4 is on this list? The Broncos will snap the Chiefs' streak of 9 straight AFC West championships. I believe, top of my head, I forgot to look into this before I started recording the video. I believe the record for conference championships is 11 consecutive. So should the Chiefs win this season, they would need only one more to match that record obviously set by the New England Patriots. And in fairness to the Chiefs, during the time where the Patriots were so dominant in their division, there was nothing going on in their division. So the Chiefs, though they have won so many times in a row, there have been some decent teams rise and fall in the AFC West over that time. But he goes on to explain his decision thusly. The Chiefs have reigned over the division since 2016, and they've barely been challenged during most of the years that quarterback Patrick Mahomes has been under center. Most of that success comes down to the Chiefs' greatness, but they've also been helped plenty by the ineptitude of teams sharing the AFC West with them. This is a misnomer. I've gone over it plenty of times on this channel. The Kansas City Chiefs' opponents in the AFC West are not that inept. Well, the Raiders are. Most of the time, what happens is the Kansas City Chiefs beat all of them twice. So starting your season knowing you're going to be 0-2 versus one of your division rivals, it's a rough hole to climb out of. After that, what happens is they get into an arms race trying to match the Chiefs because that's the only way you can get to the playoffs. Not the only way you can get to the playoffs. The surest way to get to the playoffs is to win your division. You win your division, you get in the playoffs, you get to host a playoff game. Hard to do that with the Chiefs roaming around the division. So you have to over-engineer your squad to be able to beat the Chiefs. How do you beat the Chiefs? No, it's a genuine question. How do you do it? The Eagles know something about it, but besides that, where are we at here? Kansas City has been led by future Hall of Fame coach Andy Reid during that entire run of dominance. Every other team in the division has had at least 4 head coaches within that same stretch. Why does that happen? Because they can't get to the playoffs, because they can't get to the Chiefs. And no one has been afforded the opportunity to fully see through an entire rebuild. So they've had good pieces once in a while. They've had good parts here and there. And they just can't put it together because it takes a long time to put together a good team. That churn appears to have slowed, though, And here's a very interesting thing. With Pete Carroll, Raiders, Jim Harbaugh, Chargers, and Sean Payton, Broncos, now working in the AFC West, they've stopped giving the new guy a chance. All of them, in unison, the same hiring period, decided we've got to spend the money and get an old hand. We've got to spend the money to get the biggest name that we can who has had success somewhere. Is that really how you want to build a franchise? It worked with Andy Reid, don't get me wrong. That's a rare occasion. It really is a rare occasion. Of course, finding successful coaches in the NFL is a rare occasion, whether you're taking a retread or you're taking someone else's offensive coordinator. Very, very difficult line of work, it would seem. Of those three coaches, all of whom have either reached or won the Super Bowl, Peyton is sitting on the most impressive team aside from the Chiefs. The Broncos have an elite defense, and it does look like they landed a franchise quarterback in Bo Nix in last year's draft. We know Peyton can coach up the offense, especially as the Broncos add more playmakers. We've also seen how Denver gave Kansas City fits last season in Arrowhead, with a blocked field goal keeping them from securing an impressive upset. But they did not get an upset. Denver is good enough to win this division now, with the other teams also creating more resistance to the Chiefs, who went 5-1 in the AFC West after resting their starters in a Week 18 loss to the Broncos. Denver will earn its first crown since Peyton Manning was their quarterback. Let me reread that penultimate statement here. With the other teams also creating more resistance to the Chiefs, who went 5-1 in the AFC West after resting their starters in a Week 18 loss to the Broncos. The Chiefs' only loss in the division last year when, by the way, the Broncos had their quarterback and their coach. When, by the way, the Chargers had their quarterback and their coach. The Chiefs went undefeated except for a Week 18 bye-week appearance. Now, how is it that the Chiefs then will beat the Broncos in 2025? Well, I have scoured the internet. That sounds more impressive, doesn't it? And found an article from Sports Illustrated that outlines the strengths and weaknesses of the Broncos. And I'm going to read their weakness to you because I think that it is troubling if you are the Broncos. Broncos' biggest strength, weakness 2025 X Factor revealed by PFF, a solid breakdown of the Broncos 2025 outlook from Sports Illustrated by Eric Trickle. I put too many L's on there. Biggest weakness. When it comes to the Broncos' biggest weakness in 2024, we switched to the other side of the ball. PFF named Denver's offensive weaponry as the weakness. While the Broncos gave quarterback Bo Nix the highest graded pass blocking unit in football, 83.5, they didn't provide ample skill position weapons. The Broncos earned the 5th worst PFF receiving grade and the 5th worst PFF rushing grade in 2024. Denver is hoping the following two players will fix that issue, PFF wrote. I have no counterargument here. The Broncos' offensive weapons last year weren't great, and while Courtland Sutton had a great season, he was a one-person show. Sure, Devon Vallée, Marvin Mims Jr., and Troy Franklin had their moments, but they all lacked consistency. The Broncos also didn't get much help from the tight end position, and their running back room was among the worst last year, led by Javonte Williams. The takeaway? If the Broncos' offense isn't improved over last year, with the expectation that Nix will take the next step in his development, and the additions of Ingram, Harvey, and even third-round wideout Pat Bryant, it will be a disappointment. Which of those names scares you? The same is true for the Broncos defense, even though 2024 was an exceptional year, leading the league in sacks, 63, and finishing top 10 in defense in scoring and yardage. If the Broncos aren't better this year, it would be a surprise. The Broncos have built a roster to compete now, and while it's way too early to tap them as a Super Bowl contender, they are in a position to take the next step towards it. The Broncos need to win at least 11 games and add a playoff victory. Now, if you are the Broncos, everyone knows that the strength of the Broncos is their defense. Very strong defense, maybe the best defense in the NFL. You're not going to stop Patrick Mahomes from scoring. You're not going to stop Patrick Mahomes from scoring. The Eagles couldn't do it in the Super Bowl. It was a lopsided victory by the Eagles. I will hand you that. But when their backs were against the wall and they had nothing left to lose, Patrick Mahomes threw his shoulders up and said, Xavier's down there somewhere. And it worked a couple times. The Broncos are not going to stop the Kansas City Chiefs from scoring. They're not going to add that pass rush that the Eagles had in the Super Bowl last season. That is basically the only thing that really stops Mahomes. So Mahomes is going to put up his points. Mahomes is going to score. So if you're the Broncos, that means you're going to have to keep pace. Maybe Patrick Mahomes isn't going to score 45 against the Broncos. He's going to get on the board. And if you don't have the ponies to pull the wagon, well, you're going to be in trouble. Now, just as a stinger for this video, I wanted to pull this up here. The article here leaves off mentioning Pat Bryant. This was a very interesting player from last year's draft that blew up late. Now, he was starting to get a lot of hype, and then he ran a 40. So his 40 was a 4.61. Not great. However, he is 6'2". He is 204. He had a 37.5-inch vertical. He had a 10-foot, 4-inch broad jump. I think it now, I also said that Audric Estime was going to be a problem, and that did not materialize in Audric Estime's rookie season. So perhaps I am mistaken here as well. But I do think that Pat Bryant will force opposing teams to pay more attention to him than your typical 4.61 wide receiver. I don't think it's going to be enough. The Broncos, I've said this all offseason. The Chargers are going to get the headlines. The Chargers are going to get a lot of play this preseason. The Broncos or the Chargers are going to come out and look flashy. They're going to have 3 tight end sets, all of these things. And people are going to start thinking that they are a Super Bowl contender again. They're going to start thinking that they are an AFC West contender again. I think that the stiffest competition in the AFC West, once again, is going to come from the Denver Broncos. I don't think it's this season. I do think that they have Bo Nix in their quarterback that is going to be their franchise guy. I just don't know that he's going to be any better than Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert has never gotten over the hump for the Chargers. There is an interesting middle class rising in the NFL. The middle class of quarterbacks. And I don't know if it is because the league is favoring quarterbacks and offenses so much. I don't know if it's because the stardom in the NFL in football is constantly growing, and so is the money. So more athletes are still choosing football. So different positions rise and fall, right? Like right now is a golden age of wide receivers in the NFL. We're entering, I would say, something of a silver age of quarterbacks. There are lots of teams with pretty good quarterbacks. Nobody has Patrick Mahomes. It is tempting here in Kansas City to say that Lamar Jackson is not an upper-class quarterback, that Josh Allen is not an upper-class quarterback. But the truth is, minus Patrick Mahomes, one of those guys would have a couple of rings. The truth is, minus Patrick Mahomes, one of those guys would have a couple AFC championship wins. And the truth is, minus Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix and Justin Herbert might have a couple of AFC West championships. But they don't. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.